What's up YouTube, Carboss here, back in another video where we talk cars, money, investing. Welcome back to Storytime, and in today's story I'm going to talk about a very recent investment mistake that I made. Alright, this is going to be an interesting one, so stick around. Welcome back, guys. So I've been kind of investing in sports cars for a number of years now, even before COVID. And of course, during the early years, I've made a bunch of mistakes, right? We all do. But as time goes by, I learned to, kind of like identify what can actually work, what doesn't, what kind of strategies I should be going forward with, and what I should be avoiding. But in fact, just about 6 months ago, I kind of made a decision to invest in a particular strategy, which at that time I felt was the right way to go. And for some reason, that particular strategy goes against all the fundamentals that I kind of educated myself prior to that, making that kind of investment. So in this story time, I'm going to talk a bit in detail about what happened, what I did, and what transpired after that. Okay, so the story started back in June 2023, when I shared this Instagram post that I just recently picked up a 1995-96 Skybox Meltdown of Michael Jordan BGS 9 Mint, Now, vibrant colors, nice looking card, and I think that a lot of you by today are pretty familiar with this particular insert. Now, to be clear, that insert is pretty grade sensitive, so it's not easy to get a 9, and there is a premium for mint condition on this particular insert, and that was one of the reasons why I picked it up, because I just kind of like saw the potential on how rare a mint condition card for this Jordan, but at the same time also I had a feeling that Jordan cards was, I think everybody had the same sentiment, right, that Jordan cards is kind of like the safe place to put your money. And for me, somebody who enjoys the 90s inserts, I have a hunch that I should be putting my money on the 90s inserts, especially for Jordans, Now, just so happened around this period, in comes Cajun Cardboard, and his Michael Jordan Hierarchy series. Now, if you haven't heard about the Hierarchy series, do check out Cajun Cardboard channel by my buddy Brian, he has loads and loads of information, all about Michael Jordan. I'm not gonna spoil it for you. Do watch that particular series. But basically, what it's just trying to tell you is broken down to all the amazing Jordan inserts in the 90s. Ranked them by a series of tiers. And this was pivotal for me to make this particular investment decision, which I'm going to describe to you. So when it comes to investing in sports card, I always look at the individual card, for its potential, its price point, what kind of player, and all those things, right? So always on the individual card basis. I never do investment based on a group or a subset or a big class on its own. I never say that let's buy all the kabooms or all the downtowns. It's always card specific. But when it came to this Michael Jordan inserts, and when it came to the Michael Jordan Hierarchy, I had a gut feel, right? So for some reason it hit me that if I started to invest in the Michael Jordan Hierarchy cards at a great speed, eventually when this series gets picked up and when it catches on, which eventually it did, people start to realize that there's lots and lots of amazing Michael Jordan inserts out there that they want to collect, that they want to hold, that they want to invest, and there'll be a big demand in the Jordan inserts of certain specific inserts, maybe for some of them who are trying to complete the hierarchy, or more inserts or cards that they never knew existed, before watching the hierarchy. But what it basically means is through the hierarchy, through the different tiers, through all the videos, they would be, going out and kind of like, let's get to the market and let's buy up as many of these cards as possible. I had that feeling. And of course, the Michael Jordan hierarchy series, Brian actually released the videos on a weekly basis. So you have tier 1, part 1, part 2, tier 2, part 1, 2, and 3, and so on and so forth, right? So he had weekly videos. Now, of course, he didn't come up with the entire list of cards from tiers 1 to 4, listed tier right to the end. So when I first got to know that this hierarchy list was going to come out, I wanted to take a guess, a good educated guess on what kind of inserts would be included in the hierarchy, buy into them, okay, wait for the hierarchy to be kind of like announced, okay, and just wait and catch all the demand. And so that was the plan, but it didn't exactly go according to plan. Okay, so let me break it down for you. The very first mistake that I actually did was my knowledge on Michael Jordan cards, or my knowledge on 90s inserts, on what's good, what's not, how rare, pack odds, is actually very limited. Okay, I know I did a bit of research, okay, for some of the inserts, but compared to what exactly was shown during the hierarchy, my knowledge at that time is just a fraction, right? I knew some of the good inserts, like, what's Flair Hot Shots, what's Scoring Kings. Obviously, I knew that the Flair Rookie is going to be there. I knew about Rubies, Star Rubies, and knew about Platinum Medallion. But there were so many other inserts that was not familiar at all, okay? So what that meant was I went to the market and just look for stuff that I knew, okay? What are the stuff that I knew that I thought that would be number one, included in the hierarchy, and number two, that I thought people would demand. And at the end of the day, what actually came out was certain cards which I thought was going to be popular, number one, did not end up in the hierarchy. And number two, even though it did end up in a hierarchy, it didn't end up in the high tier, right? So certain inserts which I thought that was going to do pretty well, was going to appear in a higher tier, let's say a tier 2 or tier 3, ended up in a tier 4, which comprised of many number of, I wouldn't say low value, because that's not what a hierarchy is about, but it came up into the more not mass market, but more on the ones whereby you had a lot to choose from. So I know that a lot of people, when the hierarchy came out, they were, of course, tier 1 was out of reach, right? So a lot of people will focus on what's in tier 2 and kind of have a spill over to tier 3. Tier 4, not so much, okay? So there was, on hindsight, there was some money to be made if I had able to pinpoint which of the Michael Jordan cards were going to appear on tiers 2 and 3 before it actually did. Now, the second mistake I made was the price point. Okay, so of course I had all the resources to check on comps, look at trends, and I'd have a good handle about it. Okay, but I was a bit too overconfident in the pricing. Like, for me, you always try to buy cards that's below comps if possible, right? Not necessarily you always get that way, but because I'm a reseller, or back then I wasn't a full-time reseller, but I was still doing a lot of buying and selling. So naturally, it's very normal for me to try and buy below comps so that I could sell at least at comps or higher than comps, just slightly, okay? But because I was so confident in this particular endeavor, okay, I was willing to pay at comps, for certain cards, for good grades, BGS 9 and above. That's what I was looking at, right? So BGS 9, BGS 9.5, and that was what I was focused on. Right? I knew there were PSA 9s and PSA 10s, which were already priced at a slight premium. So I went on a bit under, right? Just focusing on just the basic Gems 9.5 and Mint 9s. So I thought I was doing I thought I had an amazing idea, right? An amazing strategy, right? To go in, buy at comps, even buy slightly above comps, because I was so full of confidence that when all the videos hit and when everybody got excited about Michael Jordan's inserts, everybody will be chasing up on these inserts at the decent grades, which is a fair price point, right? BGS 9 is a good entry point. Of course, ideally some people would prefer a PSA 9 or PSA 10 depending on your preferences, but BGS 9 was a good entry point, and I had a lot of the inserts I purchased entering at BGS 9. So if you guys follow my social media, right? So I every time I pick up certain Michael Jordan insert for this my own personal hierarchy, whereby I was chasing up tiers 2, tiers 3, and tiers 4, right? And so I knew from the get-go I was not going to be able to complete any of this, right? But that was not the plan from the beginning. The plan was actually to acquire as many of these Michael Jordan inserts that would eventually appear on the hierarchy. Now, certain inserts, when the hierarchy was over, certain cards that did not make the list, of course, I eventually sold them quickly, but I was holding out on the rest of the inserts, waiting on to see anybody, would they pick up any steam, anybody would, want to acquire to try and complete the hierarchy sets. But unfortunately for me, aside from the certain well-known inserts that's always popular, okay, the other ones fell short, like really, really short. So certain inserts that I pay, at comps, even higher than comps, it didn't even match the prices that I paid. In fact, it went lower subsequently, and I took a big L on a number of those inserts. But of course, some of the other cards that continue to stay whole in price, I still have some of them here. Like the bigger cards here. The card above, you can see this here. I have this Skybox Competitive Advantage BGS 9.5, which is one of the earlier cards that I picked up. And here I got a 96 Jordan Ruby Skybox Premium. So these are some of the few that I still held. And if you just based on these three alone, right, you can tell that these are the more sought after Michael Jordan inserts, with or without a hierarchy. Okay. So of course with the hierarchy, these are kind of more well known. Okay, these are some of them appears in tiers 2 and 3. But without a hierarchy, these are already popular Michael Jordan inserts that true Michael Jordan collectors would appreciate. Okay, so if my investment strategy was to go into solely in these particular inserts, regardless of hierarchy, I probably would have done pretty well, like much better than where I ended up. Then pick up all those random inserts, from 93 or 95. I know 97 were good years, 97, 98 were definitely strong years, but those other inserts, from 91, Supreme Courts, for example, right? I had a whole set of Supreme Courts BGS 9.5. They didn't do so well, and of course, I punted on a few things like hoops, 1993 hoops, 5th anniversary gold. The one with that boss stamp, BGS 9.5, that didn't appear in the hierarchy as well. So, a couple of these mistakes is like just poof, lots and lots of money out the door. But of course, I wasn't the kind that would want to hold on to this when I realized that I did a mistake. So naturally, I just have to push them out quickly, try to recover as much of my capital as possible, and to try to make different plays using the money that I recouped. So, what did I get out of this, right? One thing that the Michael Jordan hierarchy did educate me in a great deal was to expose myself to all the range of the 90s inserts that's out there. That, like I mentioned in the early part of this video, there were a lot of inserts that I was not familiar with at all. So this definitely educated me on the kinds of inserts out there that are popular, regardless whether Michael Jordan or not. There are top inserts that has players such as Kobe, Shaq, Kevin Garnett, Allen Iverson. So those are the players that I enjoy, or not say collect, I enjoy buying to resell, because these are always popular players as well. So even though Michael Jordans are kind of like up there, right? There are other players that to pick up for those popular inserts that's always remain popular. The Noise Boys, big men on court. I know some of these are very familiar names to you guys right now, but they were not really familiar to a lot of people prior to the hierarchy. So while the hierarchy did open the eyes to a lot of people on all the Jordan inserts out there, they definitely got a lot of excitement with the Michael Jordan collectors to understand, there's a huge world of Michael Jordan inserts. But for me personally, it opened my eyes to lots and lots of 90s inserts, which I do enjoy picking up to resell. And I know that there's a lot of collectors out there who, I wouldn't say put together their own hierarchy, right? So there's no Kevin Garnett hierarchy or there's no Shaquille O'Neal hierarchy, but these guys suddenly realized that, hey, aside from what I already know, similar to my position of, the inserts that's out there for Shaquille O'Neal, for example, there are all these other inserts out there for Shaquille O'Neal, right? And I only knew about this through the Michael Jordan hierarchy videos, right? And that's my education, and that's my learning, and that's my takeaway through this particular endeavor. So no doubt it was a investment mistake. All right, I didn't actually quantify how much I lost from this endeavor because it's learning, right? If I were to just pull a number, maybe a couple $1,000 at the end of the day, right? So because I did buy good grades, BGS 9, BGS 9.5, so the impact wasn't as big, right? If I've gone for a lesser grade, a BGS 7, for example, or PSA 7, likely I would have probably lost 30% minimum. Okay, because I was definitely buying at comps or higher than comps, even sometimes 10% more than comps. So because I was that confident. So lesson learned. Okay, sometimes it's good to trust your instinct. It's good to trust your gut. But in this case, I kind of just got carried away with an ideology that goes away from my conventional thinking of how I normally invest or buy and sell sports cards. So I hope this story time was educational for you guys. It's quite a journey for this one. It's always been only like 6 or 7 months, but it just felt like it took quite a while for me to get out of that particular position. But now I'm in a space whereby I do have a lot of good inserts from that particular project, which I'm still holding on to. Of course, looking to resell at good prices, but also able to invest in the similar inserts for all the other popular players from the 90s. All right. Do like and subscribe this channel if you like this content. I hope to see you guys soon again. Thanks for watching, guys. Cowboys out.